Hey everybody, how's it going? Rob Tomlinson, DishNet34 here, welcoming you to today's episode of This Week in Perfect Team, episode number 219. It is Immortal Seasons, set 2 today. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Hopefully y'all are having a great Thursday so far. This week has been one heck of a week, I will say that much. But you know what? We are here for some brand new content. This is technically the 4th day of our September to Remember event. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on today. But man, oh man, you know, hopefully y'all's perfect teams have been having a good week so far. It's almost playoff time. And you know, it's almost playoff time in Perfect Team, but it's also almost postseason time in Major League Baseball. That's right. And you know what's a great way to celebrate that playoff push? Do you know what would be a fantastic way to celebrate, you know, the final month of the season? Team Championship Series number 5 is coming up this Saturday. That's right, the 5th Perfect Team Championship Series happening just 48 hours from, it starts 48 hours from now on Saturday, September 9th, beginning at noon Eastern, with finals coverage later on in the day on the Out of the Park Developments Twitch channel. That's right, the top 128 teams from this past PTCS period, August 7th through September 3rd, going to be competing in each of the 10 eligible format, well, the top 128 teams in each of those 10 eligible formats participate in the PTCS. And this is the last one before we get into the first Perfect Team Master Series, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But players will be getting points based on how they finish in the PTCS, and the top 64 teams in that category will go to the PT Master Series with separate PTMSs for regular tourneys and perfect drafts. And of course, first place through 32nd place will get a brand new PTCS exclusive card, depending on how they finished. And as a little bit of a bonus for our stream friends here, viewers of the Out of the Park Developments Twitch streams, not just on Saturday for the PTCS, but also Sunday for the Perfect League World Series, will be getting double drops. That's right, double the drops for watching the same amount of time. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. So a lot of fun stuff going there. And on this same weekend, as well, if you watch an affiliate stream, y'all are going to get silver drops on both Saturday and Sunday. So a couple of great incentives to tune on in, see what we got going on around the Out of the Park Developments Twitch channel and with our affiliate streamers. That's going to be a fun time, y'all. That's going to be a fun time. Yep, we're dropping all the things. Yes. Oh, gracious. So, with PTCS number 5 coming up this Saturday, let's go ahead and take a look once again at the formats that we have for this month's PTCS. A lot of these tournaments going to be revolving around the Dead Ball to Golden Years era of cards. You got Dead Ball to Golden Years Iron, Bronze, Silver, Gold, Diamond, and Open for the top 6 there. Wildcard's going to be a Dead Ball to Golden Years High Iron Floor, Low Gold Ceiling with a 1750 cap. Weekly tournaments going to be a Dead Ball to Golden Years High Gold Floor with a 2424 cap. And the Perfect Draft daily and weekly tournaments going to be a Rocking Chair Pick 12 Perfect Draft with limited edition cards available. So some fun stuff going on there. What time will the streams happen? When the first finals are pretty much set. So once a finals matchup is determined in one of the PTCS formats, we will be going live. So some good stuff right there. All right, now, we talked a little bit about PTCS. Let's talk a little bit about Perfect Team Master Series. That's right, because that's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks specifically. The first PTMS is going to happen on Saturday, September 23rd, beginning at noon Eastern Time. That's right, it is coming up pretty darn soon. Saturday, September 23rd, we will have the finals of each PT Master Series on our Twitch channel as well. Now, like I said, the top 64 teams, based on points accumulated by participants from the first 5 PTCSs, qualify for the Perfect Team Master Series. So if you did well in a Perfect Team Championship Series, you're pretty much going to be a lock for the Master Series coming up on the 23rd. Now, obviously, like I said, there are 2 different PTMS tourneys, one for traditional tournaments and one for perfect drafts and placement, obviously based on points gained from traditional PTCS and perfect draft PTCS standings. Now, the winners of each Perfect Team Master Series, because there's going to be 2 each, given that there's, the traditional and the perfect draft kind, they will move on to the Perfect Team World Championship, where they will meet the top 2 performers from Perfect League based on the number of Perfect League championships at the time in a bracketed tournament, with the winner emerging as the PT World Champion. More details on that coming in the future, but that's going to be some exciting stuff right there. And everyone who qualifies for the Perfect Team Master Series will receive a prize from the tournament. That's right, all 64 teams in the PTMS will receive a prize in the game. And there's going to be a huge card at stake for the champion. So that's going to be some fun stuff right there. Because, it's difficult. It is very difficult to make the Perfect Team Master Series. So, just getting there, definitely, deserving of at least something. That's just me. That's just me. All right, so Perfect Team Master Series coming up. We'll have some more details on that next week here on This Week in Perfect Team. So keep your eyes glued to this channel for more. All right, now like I mentioned at the top of the stream, this is the 4th day of our September to Remember event, where every single weekday we will have at least one new bit of content in the game. So we had a few limited editions earlier on this week. We had Raul Mondesi, we had Roger Peckinpah, we had John Candelaria yesterday. Now we got the TWIPT content set today. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing an alumni card, which is one of those cards where you have the historical player pictures on them, like we had with the Amos Otis, like we had with John Tudor, Jason Giambi earlier on in the cycle. That's what we mean by alumni cards. So we're going to have some fun card. We're going to have a fun card coming for you tomorrow. Plus, bonus card drops. That's going to be fun too. The weekends, a little less memorable, but you know what? I mean, it's PTCS this weekend. So that's pretty memorable in and of itself. But, here's a look at a little bit of the calendar and kind of what's coming up. We have the Perfect Team Plus surprise coming up next Wednesday as well. We got some more limited editions coming up throughout the rest of the month. Couple of alumni cards next Friday. Pretty much alumni cards on each Friday. You got the TWIPs on Thursday. You got Ellie's on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Going to be a good time right there. And you know what's also a really good time and a really good thing for baseball fans like you? Stathead Baseball, powered by Baseball Reference. And you can save $25 off if you use code 23OOTP25 at checkout for $25 off an annual baseball or all sport subscriptions. That's right. This is a fantastic service. I use it a lot when creating the slides that you're going to be seeing today. And you know, it's not just for baseball, it's for football, it's for basketball, it's for hockey. A lot of great stuff with this service. And let me tell you, this has been a lifesaver trying to make the slides for today's stream, because, you know, there's a lot of great seasons and I'd like to put them in a little bit of context for you guys. So StatHead Baseball really helps me out with that one. So if you use code 23OTP25 at checkout, you can save $25 off a StatHead Baseball or all sports subscription. The offer expires on December 31st, 2023. All right, folks. I think we've got the news and notes out of the way. Let's talk about Immortal Seasons set number 2. Oh, baby. Our Immortal Seasons program continuing. We're going to have one packable card and one topper and the topper for set 1 and 2 for each era. So we're going to have 14 cards for you today. You know, one packable card and the one topper from each era. From each of the 7 eras. So let's go ahead and talk about those real quick. And just as a reminder for those of you who may have missed it last time with the Immortal Season program, a little bit of a rundown of what the program is. Pretty much packable cards and missions that revolves around notable seasons from different eras of baseball history. The main objectives, you know, collecting cards by era for toppers, collecting hitters across the eras for a major topper, collecting the pitchers across the eras, and collecting the era toppers as well. Now, I wanted to help y'all out a little bit better, because I recognize that maybe the colors on the last flowchart that was in the last Immortal Season stream might have been a little bit, you know, confusing. So, you know, I kind of updated the flowchart a little bit to kind of, you know, give you some, try to clear up a little bit of the confusion from the color schemes that were on the original one. So pretty much, you know, kind of delineates the tracks from the eras from each of each other as well, because, you know, there's a track, you know, you have set 1, set 2, then the set 1 and 2 topper for each era. Then we're going to have set 3 and set 4 with a set 3 and 4 topper. And then you got the era topper for each era for this program. So this just kind of a reminder of how all this stuff works. And then obviously if you collect the program hitters from sets 1 through 4, you're going to get a major hitter topper. If you collect the program pitchers from sets 1 through 4, you're going to get a major pitcher topper. And then if you collect the toppers from sets 1 through 4, you're going to get a major topper. And we talked about those a few weeks ago. So if you want to go back and look at those, then go right ahead. But let's go ahead and get onto the cards today. And once again, we're going to be going in reverse order by era. So we're going to start with the modern era. Then we're going to go power era, defensive era, boom era, so on and so forth. All right, let's go ahead and get right to it. And we are going to start off. We're going to start off with the modern era. And you know, the modern era, you know, it's been dominated by a lot of hitters, a lot of power guys. But you know, power pitchers can really get some love in the modern era, especially given that, you know, bullpens have been very, very big deals in the modern era. You know, ever since, you know, the 90s and all that, in the 2000s. I mean, there have been really good relief pitchers in the modern era. And this one, our first card today, is a really good one. You know, this guy had a legendary season in 2016 between a couple of teams, actually. But he was absolutely dominant in the postseason. Ladies and gentlemen, our first card of the day is 100 overall closer from Cleveland. It is Andrew Miller. Andrew Miller, 157 stuff, 96 movement, 86 homer rating, pitcher BABIP of a 102 and 120 control. Whoo! 185 stuff versus lefties with a 118 pitcher BABIP, 87 movement, 80 homer rating, and a 126 control. Whoo! And he's dang good against righties as well. He's going to have a little bit more homer suppression, but a lot less pitcher BABIP against righties. 148 stuff, 100 movement, 88 homer rating, 97 pitcher BABIP, 118 on the control, 17 stamina, 62 on the hold runners, extreme ground ball tendency. Extreme ground ball tendency. Yes, this is the packable. We're going to start with the packables first, and then we're going to get to the mission rewards. So yes, we're going to go through the packables first, and then we're going to go with the toppers. So Andrew Miller, as a packable, this is a darn good reliever right here. Fastball and slider combo, 92 to 94 miles an hour on the fastball. This is pretty darn good right here. And 2016 was a fantastic season. 70 games, 74 and a third innings pitched, a 1.45 ERA, 14.9 strikeouts per nine, 1.1 walks per nine. Whoo, buddy. This was a doggone good season right here. He was an all-star, finished 9th in AL Cy Young voting, and his strikeout to walk rate of a 13.67 is 4th among relief pitchers all time with a minimum of 65 innings pitched. If you up that minimum to 70, it's 3rd all time. That's pretty darn good, but his postseason is where he really dominated. He had a 17 innings pitched scoreless streak in the 2016 postseason, and you combine that with all of his other previous postseason appearances, I believe in like the previous year, and he started out his postseason career with 24 and a third innings pitched to start his career. This is a pretty darn good card right here, and he is the perfect team 24 as an Immortal Season card from the modern era. Alrighty. So there we go, Andrew Miller. Now let's go ahead and go back a bit to the power era. Let's go ahead and go to the power era for this one. And you know, nothing defined the power era more than the 1990s Atlanta Braves. Or at least the years of the 90s. I mean, the Braves, they were the team of the 1990s, and they were anchored by one hell of a pitching staff. And this guy was a big part of it. You know, you had guys like Maddox. You had, you know, John Smoltz in here. How about another one of those big three starting pitchers from those Atlanta Braves? Ladies and gentlemen, 100 overall left-handed starter from the Atlanta Braves, 1998. It is Tom Glavine. 99 stuff, 100 movement, 92 homer rating, 94 pitcher BABIP, and 84 on the control. Very good against left-handed batters. 106 stuff, 97 movement, 89 homer rating, 101 pitcher BABIP, and 81 control. And against righties, it's not bad either. 97 stuff, 102 movement, 92 homer rating, 92 pitcher BABIP, and 86 control. 103 stamina, 67 on the hold runners. Fastball, slider, curveball, sinker, circle change combo on this guy right here. 1998, a solid year for Tom Glavine. 20-6 with a 2.47 ERA, 6.2 strikeouts per 9, 2.9 walks per 9. You know, he was a 1998 NL Cy Young vote winner, pretty much. He was an All-Star and a Silver Slugger as well. He was his 6.1 wins above replacement, the second highest in his career, and he led MLB in wins that year. This is the fourth of 5 years of his career where he had 20 or more wins. So, you know, Tom Glavine, big part of those 1990s Atlanta Braves rotations. No, he was a key to a lot of those playoff runs. And, you know, the Braves, you know, they won the NLDS that year in 98, lost the NLCS, unfortunately. But, you know, he did win a couple of Cy Youngs. He's a Hall of Famer. And this was one of his best seasons of his career. Alrighty, so there you go. 1998 Tom Glavine from the Atlanta Braves is in Perfect Team 24. Alrighty. Alright, next up, let's go to the defensive era. And oh man, you know, this next guy, sneakily one of my favorite players to have on my infield in Perfect Team. Just for the sneaky goodness of how good this guy is at hitting. Just how sneakily good this guy is at hitting. And you know, this guy had a solid year in those 1980s years for the New York Yankees. You know, he was a career Yankee, this next guy, and his 1986 was absolutely legendary. Ladies and gentlemen, from the 1986 New York Yankees, it is 100 overall, Don Mattingly. Don Mattingly, who may or may not be shaving his sideburns. 106 BABIP, 89 power, 117 avoid K, 140 contact, 109 gap power, and 54 on the eye. This is a fun card. This has always been one of my favorite card guys in this entire game. I mean, he's got contact. He's got a little bit of pop in him. He's got some really great BABIP here. Now, the eye, never really quite there for a Don Mattingly card, but he is solid as a hitter. And that is what, and that's pretty much what we're all looking for here when you're looking at first base. Very good against lefties, 113 BABIP, 67 power, 116 avoid K, 137 contact, 119 gap power, and 49 eye. Meanwhile, over against righties, 104 BABIP, 96 power. That's something to keep in mind there. 117 avoid K, 141 contact, 106 gap, and 56 on the eye. Defensively, he's not bad. You know, 61 range, 71 errors, 63 arm, 82 on the turn double play. He's a lefty thrower, so he can only play first base, but during the 1986 season, he did have a game where he had an inning or two over at third base, became the last left-handed thrower at third base that baseball has ever seen. So that's a neat little fact right there about his 86 season. But this guy can't run. 5 speed, 6 stealing, 65 on the base running. Can't really bunt either. 37 sack bunt, 28 on the bunt for hit. Yeah, but he doesn't have a third base rating. Didn't play enough at third base, and honestly, I don't think the game would really like him over at third base, to be quite honest here. But the 1986 season for Don Mattingly was an absolutely brilliant one, and you know, he honestly should have won MVP that year because it was better than the year he actually did win MVP. But, you know, 1986, there was some guy named Roger Clemens that happened to win just everything that year. So, meh. But 352, 394, 573 with 31 homers, 113 RBI, and a 161 OPS plus. This is pretty much all career highs for Don Mattingly in his career. This was the peak of his career right here. Finished second in AL MVP to Roger Clemens. He was a Gold Glover. He was an All-Star. He was a Silver Slugger as well. Led Major League Baseball in hits with 238 of them, and led in doubles with 53 of them. He also led in slugging and OPS plus, even in total bases. This was just a phenomenal season. A phenomenal season for Don Mattingly. And this was also the year he broke New York Yankees single season hits and doubles records, which were held, I believe, if I recall correctly, yep, Earl Combs. He broke Earl Combs' record for hits with that 238 mark, and Lou Gehrig's doubles record. Both had been set in 1927. Pretty cool stuff right there. And Don Mattingly, pretty cool guy right here. Sideburns or not, he is in Perfect Team 24. Awesome, awesome stuff right here. Alrighty, next up in the packables, let's go to the baseball boom era. Now, baseball boom era, if y'all don't remember, that's from 1961 to 1979. Now, this next guy, you know, when you see this guy, you're thinking, well, why isn't he in the defensive era? Because this guy has pretty dang good defense. And, you know, this guy could definitely be considered the best defensive third baseman of all time. So yeah, it's kind of an oxymoron that he's not in the defensive era and Mattingly is, and whatever. Either way, from the 1964 Baltimore Orioles, it is 100 overall, Brooks Robinson. 86 BABIP, 84 power, 94 void K, 108 contact, 86 gap, and 65 on the eye, but oh, baby. Oh, man. Look at that defense right there. There ain't nothing getting past this guy right here. 103 range, 105 error, 112 on the infield arm, 107 on the turn double play. Woo! 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 Is it hot in here, or is it just that defense? Holy cow. But man, oh man, Brooks Robinson, you know, an elite defender. An elite defender. If y'all ever seen one. I mean, he's made some spectacular plays in his career. If you have never seen a highlight reel of Brooks Robinson, do yourself a favor. Go search some videos on YouTube or MLB. You will see a lot of great stuff from Brooks Robinson. Holy cats. One of the best defensive third basemen of all time. And honestly, this wasn't his best defensive season by D-WAR, but man, oh man, this was his best season overall. I mean, this was the first year that he really hit well for the Baltimore Orioles. 317, 368, 521 with 28 homers during the year, 118 RBI, and a 145 OPS plus. If we look at his career before then, if we look at Brooks Robinson's career before 1964, you know, you had just one season above 300 with the 23 homers there. But, you know, he had averages ranging between like 220, 230. He had a couple of 280s in there, a 251 in 1963. But this was the year that Brooks Robinson really put it all together. And yet the Orioles finished third in the AL with a record of 97-65 this year. So they were good, but just not good enough to win that AL pennant. But you know what? This was a fantastic year. Had career high in RBI that year. Career high in average, on base, slugging, home runs. He was the 1964 AL MVP because of his play during the 1964 season. And, you know, it was a very deserving one. Very, very deserving MVP award. Won it over Mickey Mantle's 35 dinger season. Voters got it right, folks. The voters got it right. He led the American League in RBI that year. And one little thing here that I thought was very fascinating. From September 7th through the end of the year in 1964, he'd hit 464 with 28 RBI. So he wasn't just a great defender. He was a great hitter that year too. And you know, we look at the splits here a little bit. Very good against lefties and pretty solid against righties, all things considered. Now, you're not exactly, you know, getting this card to hit. It is a bonus. But you're getting this card, if you get this one, if you play him, you're getting him for the defense. And the defense alone. The hitting is a pretty darn good bonus right here. He can't run. He can kind of bunt a little bit. But there you go. Brooks Robinson from the 1964 Baltimore Orioles is in Perfect Team 24. Whoo boy. Whoo boy. All right, so now that I'm coming down from the vapors of Brooks Robinson's defense. Oh, let's go to the golden era of baseball. The golden era from 1946 to 1960. And you know, there were some very interesting players that come from this era of baseball. All right. But when I saw this guy's name on the list that I usually get for this content, I'm like, this guy? Really? And then I looked it up a little bit and I'm like, wow, that actually wasn't that bad of a year, all things considered. And when I look at the ratings on the card, I'm like, ooh, okay, all right, okay, all right. So this is a guy that if you were in EVC's Guess the Set contest, I doubt anybody would have picked this guy. It is such a random name, but it's a pretty good card when you take a look at it. Ladies and gentlemen, from the 1950 Whiz Kids Philadelphia Phillies, this is 100 overall closer, Jim Constanti. 74 stuff, 110 movement, 89 homer rating, 123 pitcher BABIP, and 93 control. That is a 123 on the pitcher BABIP. And these are some solid splits as well. You know, 74 stuff to 73 stuff between lefties and righties. Movement is pretty good. 115 against lefties, 107 against righties. The homer rating's pretty good. 92 homer rating against lefties, 86 against righties. The pitcher BABIP. Whoo, baby. 123 against both sides and 93 control against both sides. I had to do a little digging on Jim Constanti. And this is one of those young guns that was on those 1950 Phillies. And this was the best year of his career. Honestly, one of the best relief pitching seasons of this era in 1950. He is the only National League reliever in the history of baseball to win the MVP award. And honestly, you know, this was not a bad year for him. 16-7 record. He had 22 saves out of the bullpen for the Phillies, 74 games, which was then a record in Major League Baseball, a 2.66 ERA with a FIP of 3.77. He had a 1.039 whip that year. Now, the strikeout rate wasn't quite there, 3.3 strikeouts per 9, but he won the MVP. He was a lockdown guy in the back end of the Phillies bullpen. He had 4.7 wins above replacement coming out of the bullpen, according to Baseball Reference. And, you know, the pitching BABIP was what really sold it here for me. The 123 here. In the 1950 season, he gave up just a 207 batting average on balls in play. 207. That is actually the second lowest in his, that's the lowest in his career when you talk about full seasons. Lowest of his career, a 207 BABIP against. Averaged over 2 innings an appearance. This is a pretty solid guy here. Fastball, slider, curveball, screwball. So the pitches aren't really, you know, much to write home about. But this guy, you know, can keep the ball in the ballpark. He can really suppress BABIP very, very well. This could be a sneaky good bullpen option for some people who may have like maybe a low BABIP kind of park with their perfect team. You know, this is going to be a sneaky good card, I would think. I'm curious to see if people are going to use this one. I'm very, very curious because of the 123 BABIP. Very, very curious. I might use it if I get this guy. So there you go. Jim Constanti, the only National League reliever in history to win the MVP award. He is in Perfect Team 24. Alrighty. So we got 2 more packable cards for y'all. 2 more packable cards before we get into the toppers. And we go to the Rebirth era. Now, the Rebirth era, in case y'all do not remember, Rebirth era covers the years of 1921 to 1945. So just around, you know, once the live ball era began and right before integration. But we decided to do a little bit of a swerve for this one. We're not using, we're technically using a Major League Baseball player here. But we're not using a Major League Baseball player. Well, we're not using their time in the major leagues. No. We're going to the Negro Leagues for our next card from the Rebirth era. And what better way, what better player to use from the Negro Leagues on the mound to represent an immortal season than our next card right here. We take you to the 1934 Pittsburgh Crawfords for a guy you may or may not know already. Ladies and gentlemen, 100 overall right-handed starter from 1934, it is Satchel Paige. Satchmo himself, 101 stuff, 109 movement, 98 homer rating, 102 pitcher BABIP, and 108 on the control. And these are some solid splits right here. Against lefties, 101 stuff, 108 movement, 96 homer rating, 103 pitcher BABIP, and 106 control. Against righties, 101 stuff, 110 movement, 100 homer rating, 102 pitcher BABIP, and 110 on the control. And I know a lot of you are keying in on this. 104 stamina. So this guy can start for you guys. 47 on the hold runners. Now, he is an extreme fly ball type. But I think with the homer rating and the pitcher BABIP rating, he's going to keep a lot of balls in the ballpark here. You cannot use two of the same player on your team, unfortunately, but it would be pretty fascinating though to kind of see both Satchel Paiges that are in the game kind of duke it out a little bit. That could be fun. He's got fastball, he's got slider, he's got curveball, screwball, forkball, changeup, 95 to 97 on the velocity. Pretty darn good right here. Now, 1934 for Satchel Paige. I got these stats off of Baseball Reference, but there are some discrepancies in what the actual stats were between, Baseball Reference, between Seam Heads, between a lot of other Negro League databases. So we are using the Baseball Reference stats here for Satchel Paige here. And in 1934, this was arguably the best season of Satchel Paige's Negro League career. He went 13-3 as a 27-year-old for the Crawfords with a 1.54 ERA, a .872 whip, which actually was not the lowest in his career. That would have been a .810 mark in 1930. But a 1.93 FIP, 9.4 strikeouts per 9, one of the highest strikeout rates of his career, and 6 hits per 9. 5.07 strikeout to walk ratio on this guy right here. He was an East-West All-Star in the Negro Leagues in 1934. He led all major leagues at this time. American League, National League, Negro Leagues. He led all of them in whip, FIP, hits per 9, and K to walk ratio. That is how sensational Satchel Paige was in the 1934 season. And he threw a no-hitter this year, striking out 17 against the Homestead Grays. That is one heck of an accomplishment right there. So Satchel Paige, arguably, one of the greatest pitchers in the history of baseball, with a solid year in 1934, an immortal season, shall we say, coming to us from the Rebirth era, and he is a packable card in Perfect Team 24. There's a lot I could say about Satchel Paige's 1934 year, but man, oh man, just look at take a look at the Baseball Reference when you get a chance. I mean, this guy was just absolutely insane. This was 6.1 wins above replacement, highest WAR level in his career. Whew, boy. Oh man. All right, so there we go. Satchel Paige. One more packable to talk about before we get into the toppers. And we go to the dead ball era for our next guy right here. And, I think we had this guy in our dead ball set a few weeks ago. But you know what? We figured this guy had a much better season than what we had him as. Let's give him one hell of a card here. So we did. Ladies and gentlemen, from the 1894 Philadelphia Phillies, we bring to you 100 overall center fielder, Sliding Billy Hamilton. Sliding Billy Hamilton, your dead ball era packable for today. 108 BABIP, 39 power, 95 avoid K, 112 contact, 98 gap power, 121 on the eye. Solid contact hitter. But man, oh man, look at all that blue right over there. Oh boy, 117 speed, 122 stealing, and 123 on the base running. Yo quiero indeed. Whew. You are right, JC Jams. Goodness gracious. And Billy Hamilton, solid defender in center field. 105 range, 101 error, 52 on the arm, and he can learn left field and right field. However, it's not on the card, so you're going to have to do a little bit of training on this guy. But man, oh man, this guy is solid against both righties and lefties. I mean, there's not a whole lot of... There are some splits, but it's, not bad splits here as a left-handed batter here. Against lefties, he's got 104 BABIP, 33 power, 92 avoid K, 107 contact, 94 gap, 111 on the eye. And then you look at against righties here. You got 109 BABIP, you got 41 power, 96 avoid K, 114 contact, 99 gap, 124 on the eye. This guy is going to get on base. This guy is going to get on base 100%. All right? Well, not 100%, maybe, 40%. But that's just me. But 1894 for Billy Hamilton. An immortal season for a number of different reasons. That year he hit 403 with a 521 on base percentage. 521. 521. That is insane to think about. That's like that's like 90s power dude era of on-base percentage. 523 slugging as well. He had 4 homers, 90 RBI, and 100 stolen bases for the 1894 Phillies. That is darn good right there. And he set the MLB record in 1894 for runs scored in a season with 198. That is a record that has not been broken. That is a record that has not been broken. And, if we look at the whole of his career, he had 914 stolen bases all time, which ranks 3rd among all players in the history of baseball. That is darn good. The only player that ever came close to that 198 run mark was Babe Ruth with 177 in 1921. He was still 21 runs off. That's how good Billy Hamilton was this season. Absolutely insane. He also set a single game record for stolen bases in a game with 7 of them. On August 31st of 1894, he had 7 of them. 7 of them. That's how speedy this guy was. And he led all majors in on-base percentage, walks, stolen bases, and obviously runs scored. So there you go, Billy Hamilton. This is going to be a fantastic player for a lot of teams. And this isn't the modern Billy Hamilton, but it is a great Billy Hamilton. And he is in perfect team 24. Alrighty, so there you go. There's your packables for this Immortal Seasons Set 2. But let's talk about the Set 1 and 2 toppers. That's right. It is topper season. We had a few packable cards for each era. You do not have to get all of them. If you got if you got 2 out of the 3 packable cards from Immortal Seasons per era, you're going to be getting one of these you're going to be getting these toppers. So that's some pretty good stuff right there. So let's go ahead and talk about the set 1 and 2 toppers for each of the different eras. And we're going to start in the modern era. That's right. We're going to go once again in reverse order. We're going to go modern to dead ball this time again. We're going to start in the modern era. And you know, we talked a little bit about defense earlier on today with Brooks Robinson. You know, if you want to talk about someone that had a really great defensive season for the modern era, you know, this is a guy that I grew up watching. You know, my formative years in baseball were like the mid-2000s, around 06, 07, 08. And this guy was absolutely spectacular to watch play defense. And hit a little bit, too. Ladies and gentlemen, from the 2007 Colorado Rockies, the modern era set 1 and 2 topper is 100 overall, Troy Tulowitzki. Troy Tulowitzki, 92 BABIP, 80 power, 68 avoid K, 102 contact, 81 gap, and 70 I, but you're not getting this guy for the bat. No. You're getting this guy for the defense. 103 range, 102 error, 106 arm, and 102 on the turn double play. Whoo! Now, he's not the greatest hitter in the world, but if he does hit, that is going to be a big bonus. He's not the speediest guy either. 49 speed, 47 stealing, 83 on the base running. Decent at bunting, 68 sack bunt, 54 on the bunt for hit. But man, oh man, this guy, you know, if he does hit, it's going to be pretty good against lefties, I would think, given the splits we have here. 98 BABIP, 84 power, 79 avoid K, 112 contact, 83 gap power, 76 on the eye. It's not every day you get a guy that can defend like Tulo does here, but also have a little bit of a bat on him. Now, it's not the most elite bat in the world, but it is kind of a decent contact guy here with some decent BABIP. But he is going to defend the heck on the he's going to defend for you guys. That's the big key here for Troy Tulowitzki here. And you know, 2007, pretty much, you know, Tulo's rookie year, one of the best seasons of his career, really. He hit 291, 359, 479 with 24 homers, 99 RBI, and a 109 OPS plus. He finished second in NL Rookie of the Year this year, led MLB in defensive wins above replacement with 3.9. His 99 RBIs this year, an all-time rookie record for shortstops since integration. That is pretty good right there. And, you know, a little bit of a fun fact, he turned the 13th unassisted triple play in Major League Baseball history on April 29th of that year. Awesome stuff right here. So, you know, this is pretty much an upgrade on some of the light-hitting defensive shortstops that are out there, I would think. You know, you have guys like Dave Bancroft out there. You have guys like Mark Belanger out there. This could definitely be an upgrade on those guys, potentially. So there you go. Troy Tulowitzki from the 2007 Colorado Rockies is in Perfect Team 24. And he is the topper for the modern era set 1 and 2. Alrighty, next up, let's go to the power era. And you know, we talked a little bit about the Atlanta Braves a little bit. And the 1998 season for the Braves, we talked a little bit about how they lost in the National League Championship Series. All right. If y'all know your baseball history, They lost to the San Diego Padres in the 1998 NLCS. So let's stick with the Padres here for the power year, because there were some very interesting Padres teams in the 1990s. All right. And if there was one individual season that really brought relevance to the San Diego Padres, you know, there is no one else we would rather have for a Padres card in Immortal Seasons than our next guy right here. Ladies and gentlemen, from the 1994 San Diego Padres, one of the best modern hitting seasons in Major League history, it is 100 overall right fielder Tony Gwynn. 122 BABIP, 61 power, 120 avoid K, 147 contact, 112 gap power, 84 on the eye. He is the topper for power years set 1 and 2. Whoo, 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 whoo. 124 BABIP against lefties, 44 power, 118 avoid K, 143 contact, 114 gap, and 78 on the eye. Against righties, he's got 121 BABIP, 66 power, 120 avoid K, 148 contact, 112 gap, and 86 on the eye. This guy right here, oh baby, this is going to be a contact hitting machine for you guys. Take a look at his defense, though. Tony Gwynn wasn't the greatest defender in baseball history. This is solid here, I would think. 76 range, 103 errors, 74 on the arc. It's not the greatest, but I think it can be passable in the outfield potentially. 41 speed, 78 stealing, 56 base running. You can play right field. You can play a tiny bit of center field if you really want him to. But this guy, you know, his calling card is contact hitting. That is what he's going to give you. Whoo, buddy. Now, 1994. We all know what happened in 1994. The strike, which, you know, led us to some of the great what-ifs in baseball history. You know, you had guys like, you know, you were wondering, you know, were the Expos going to go to the playoffs? Were they going to go to the World Series? This was one of those things. Was Tony Gwynn going to hit 400? And this was one of those big what-if questions once the 1994 season was officially done. Because Tony Gwynn, you know, this is the closest, really, anyone has ever gotten to 400 in a season since Ted Williams did so in 1941. You know, 394, 454, 568, 12 homers, 64 RBI, and a 169 OPS plus. He was an all-star. He was a Silver Slugger, finished 7th in NL MVP that year. Led MLB in hits and average, obviously. Yeah, and like I said, closest guy to get to 400 since Tenny Ballgame. So this is a fantastic year for Tony Gwynn. Arguably one of the best of his career. And you know, this was the first of 4 straight National League batting titles that Tony Gwynn had between 94 and 97. His 165 hits led the league. He had how many wins above replacement? 4.2, which arguably wasn't the best of his career. His defense was kind of a net negative that year, negative 1.5 D-WAR, but you know what? His offensive wins above replacement, 4th best of his career at 5.2. Not bad. Not bad. And in the second half, you know, there are 28 games that he played in. In the second half of the 1994 season, he hit 423 over those 28 games in the second half. And he hit 475 through 10 August games in the second half. So, you know, he was on a bit of a hot streak once August came around, and then mid-August, as y'all know, game shut down. Pretty cool stuff, though, for Tony Gwynn, 1994. He is in Perfect Team 24. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. All right, so there we go. Your Power Years Set 1 and 2 topper, Tony Gwynn. Let's move on to the defensive era. And we have a guy who's pretty darn good at defense as the topper for the defensive era set 1 and 2 topper. And, you know, we talked a little bit. I talked a little bit about the Montreal Expos, you know, but, you know, 1994 season wasn't the only year in which the Expos were good. Let's go back to the early 80s here for the Montreal Expos. And this guy, you know, he was a very fun player. He loved playing baseball. Some people even called him, you know, kind of a glory hog, really. Because, you know, he was having so much fun playing baseball. Some people, you know, called him the Kid because of that joyful exuberance. And you know what? What better way to have an immortal season of this guy right here? From the 1982 Montreal Expos, it is 100 overall catcher, Gary Carter. Gary Carter, 76 BABIP, 86 power, 80 avoid K, 96 contact, 94 gap, and 94 on the eye. He is an absolute slugger against lefties right here. 83 BABIP, 111 power, 79 avoid K, 110 contact, 103 gap power, and 100 on the eye. Not the greatest hitter against righties. This could be maybe more of a platoon bat behind the plate against lefties here. But this guy right here is absolutely stellar at defense behind the plate. You have 104 catcher ability and 107 on the catcher arm. That is darn good. You know, Gary Carter, definitely known as one of the best defensive catchers of the 1980s. And it really showed during the 1982 season. 1982 season, he had 2.8 defensive WAR behind the plate. And actually, that wasn't his best defensive WAR season. That would have been 1983, where he had 4 defensive wins above replacement with the Expos. But 1982, 8.6 wins above replacement overall. 6.9 offensive wins above replacement. Pretty nice right there. Highest of his career. 2.8 defensive WAR, second highest of his career. He was an all-star. He was a gold glover. He was a silver slugger. Hit 293, 381, 510 on the slash line. 29 homers, 97 RBI, and a 146 OPS plus. But defensively, this guy threw out 40% of base runners, which that was pretty darn good for the time. I mean, we're talking league average around that time was 32% for caught stealing. So he caught 70 guys, allowed 103 stolen bases, caught 70. 40%. That's not bad right there. Not bad at all. In fact, the next year he would throw out 47% of base runners. This is some awesome stuff right here with Gary Carter right here. He's not fast at all. Gary Carter never was, you know, a speed demon. Not a great bunter either. 55 sack bunt, 46 on the bunt for hit, but man, oh man, he could mash lefties. he could definitely mash lefties. If we take a look at those splits from 1982, let's talk about those splits. Versus lefties in 182 plate appearances. 318 average, 418 on base, 604 slugging with 11 homers and 27 RBI. Compare that to a 283, 366, 474 slash line in 18 homers and 70 RBI in 471 plate appearances against righties. That, my friends, the 128 OPS plus against lefties compared to an 89 OPS plus against righties. That is pretty darn good. So there you go. Gary Carter, possibly your new starting catcher in league play, maybe, potentially. Who knows? But he is in Perfect Team 24. Alrighty. Next up. Let's go to the baseball boom era. That baseball boom era. Now, we had Brooks Robinson from the Orioles here. But you know what? There's another great team in the boom era. And you know, there are some great players from the boom era. You know, it's not going to be a Baltimore guy, all right? I don't know why I mentioned Baltimore, but whatever. But you know, there are some great pitchers of the baseball boom era in the 60s and the 70s. This one, however, was a little bit, let's just say, prickly with the media. But this guy, you know, he left it all on the field. He was a fantastic pitcher of his era. And, you know, in this particular year, we're going to see he won the NL Cy Young Award. So, ladies and gentlemen, from the 1972 Philadelphia Phillies, we have 100 overall, Steve Carlton. Steve Carlton, 115 stuff, 111 movement, 103 homer rating, 93 pitcher BABIP, 93 control. That's right, we have another lefty for you here today. And look at the splits against lefties here. This is pretty good stuff. 121 stuff, 116 movement, 109 homer rating, 98 pitcher BABIP, 95 control. Against righties, it's not bad. 113 stuff, 109 movement, 100 homer rating, 91 pitcher BABIP, 92 on the control. 114 stamina, 67 on the hole runners. He's a fly ball guy, so he might give up a few homers here and there, but maybe with the homer and BABIP ratings, he might keep some in the park here. 94 to 96 on the velocity. He's got a fastball, he's got a slider, he's got a curveball, he's got a changeup. So this could be pretty decent lefty starter in your rotation. Or if you have some good starters already, you might think about putting him in the bullpen, potentially. But you know, this is a pretty darn good card right here for Steve Carlton. His 1972 season, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic for a Phillies team that, wasn't good. I mean, they finished only 59 and 97. I mean, we're talking 6th place in the NL East. Last place in the NL East. But you know what? Steve Carlton still won 27 games. Steve Carlton still won 27 games for those 1972 Phillies. Just absolutely crazy how good he was that year. With a 1.97 ERA, he was pretty much the Phillies pitching staff. He was pretty much the Phillies pitching staff right here. 8.1 strikeouts per 9, 2.3 walks per 9. He was the 1972 NL Cy Young Award winner, 5th in NL MVP. He was an all-star, led Major League Baseball in wins that year. He led in FIP. He led the National League in ERA. strikeouts, and complete games. This guy had how many complete games? 30 of them, with 8 shutouts, 346 innings pitched. You want to talk about the other guys in this 1972 Phillies rotation? Let's take a little detour and talk about them real quick, because there were such luminaries in this rotation as Ken Reynolds, Bill Champion, Woody Fryman, who combined between just those 3 guys won 10 games. How many did they lose, you might ask? Glad you asked. They lost 39 games. That's bad. That is bad. Like, really bad. Put Carlton on the 68 Togers and he wins 40. Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they had some decent bullpen guys, but it's like, ugh. Yeah, Steve Carlton is pretty much the pitching staff for these Philadelphia Phillies. He also, he carried the team on his back pretty much. 15-game winning streak in decisions at one point during the season. I mean, this guy was locked in during that 1972 season. So there you go. Steve Carlton from the 1972 Phillies is your baseball boom set 1 and 2 topper for Immortal Seasons in Perfect Team 24. All right, we have just 3 more cards for you. We have 3 more cards for you. 3 more toppers for you. Let's go to the golden era. Let's go to the golden era. And for this card, we're gonna go toward the upper end of the 1941 to 1960 era. That the golden era in Out of the Park kind of encompasses. And we had a pretty darn good shortstop a little bit ago, Troy Tulowitzki, that was kind of an all-around hitter and could defend as well. But this guy, maybe a little bit more of a pesky guy right here. It's not Johnny Pesky, but he is pretty darn good at playing the 6th spot right here. Ladies and gentlemen, from the 1960 Chicago White Sox, your golden years set 1 and 2 topper is 100 overall shortstop from the 1960 Chicago White Sox, Luis Aparicio. 105 range, 109 error, 101 arm, and 106 turn double play on the infield right here. With 115 speed, 122 stealing, and 119 on the base running. So you guys are getting a couple of pretty interesting options at shortstop with these toppers today. You got a guy who can hit and also defend with Troy Tulowitzki. Now you got a guy who's more of a contact and speed guy potentially that could play shortstop for you as well. There's going to be some decisions to be made here for you guys. He's got 85 BABIP, 17 power, 102 avoid K, 91 contact, 69 gap, 54 on the eye. He's a spray hitter. He's a righty batter. But you take a look at the splits against lefties here. He is a lefty masher, all things considered given his profile. 106 BABIP, 11 power, 111 avoid K, 115 contact, 84 gap, and 49 on the eye against lefties. So now we have some choices for you for shortstop right here. This is going to be interesting to see how a lot of people want to play this. If maybe, Aparicio gets a start, if maybe Tulowitzki gets some starts here and there. There's definitely a lot of options now with shortstop. 277, 323, 343 on the year for Luis Aparicio, in 1960. You know, one of the best shortstops of his era defensively. 2 homers, 61 RBI, 51 stolen bases to just 8 caught stealing. That's a pretty darn good ratio right there, if you ask me. He made both All-Star games during the 1960 season. He was a Gold Glove winner over at shortstop. Actually got some votes for American League MVP that year. You take a look at the stats for this year relative to his career. And, you know, this is a young Louis Aparicio right here. This was the second of 3 straight seasons in which he had 50 or more stolen bases. The 5th year in a row where he led the American League in stolen bases. Second time he led all of Major League Baseball in stolen bases. And, you know, this was probably the best hitting season of his career, pretty much. 153 games. He had 2.8 offensive wins above replacement, which actually is the 5th highest of his career. But 3.8 defensive wins above replacement, that is the highest in Major League Baseball among shortstops of the Golden Years era. And that's from 1946 to 1960. Throughout this entire era, this was the best defensive shortstop season ever of that era. Absolutely insane. He's got some insane defense to go with it. Honestly, you know, between Aparicio, between Tulowitzki, between Brooks Robinson, there's going to be some pretty tough left sides of the infield that are going to be coming to a perfect team near you, folks. Oh, man. Oh, man. So there you go. Louis Aparicio, 1960. Chicago White Sox. He is the Golden Years set 1 and 2 topper in Perfect Team 24. All right, 2 more left. And we go to the Rebirth era. We go to the Rebirth era. Let's go to that Rebirth era. And the Rebirth era, you know, encompassing the years of, what was it again? 1921 to 1945. And, you know, we're talking like, you know, some wartime eras here, you know, early dead ball guys. But you know what? There's one guy during this era that, you know, was pretty darn good. And it's actually a guy that we mentioned just a few cards ago. You know, we talked about Tony Gwynn a little bit ago. And we talked about how he almost got to 400. Almost got to 400. He was so darn close. This guy right here. This next guy. Oh, man. You want to talk about someone that crossed that 400 threshold. The last guy to have ever done it. As of now. Ladies and gentlemen, from the 1941 Boston Red Sox, it is 100 overall left fielder Ted Williams. Bask in the splendor of these hitting abilities, folks. Oh, baby. 113 BABIP, 143 power, 92 avoid K, 146 contact, 96 gap, and 121 on the eye. Folks, look at those splits against righties. Ooh, boy. 109 BABIP, 157 power, 97 avoid K, 149 contact, 97 gap, and 125 on the eye. Now, what's even more fascinating to me than those right-handed splits, look at the splits against lefties here. Because, you know, Ted Williams, lefty hitter, 125 BABIP against left-handed pitching with 99 power, 74 avoid K, 137 contact, 94 gap, and 108 on the eye. So these are some solid splits right here, I would imagine. Because you're getting a lot more BABIP against lefties, getting a little bit more contact. Well, actually, not getting more contact. I mean, lower power, lower avoid K, but you're getting more BABIP right here. This is a fun card right here, folks. Oh, man. Now, defensively, not the greatest. You know, he's got 69 range, nice. 64 errors, 66 on the outfield arm. It's not the greatest, all right? I think we can readily admit that. 83 no rating in left field, 62 out of 73 in right field. So he can train up a little bit in right field if you want to. So a lot of people may just look at this guy and think, you know, DH. You know, and honestly, I can see that. But, you know, if you don't have another left fielder, you know, this guy could definitely, you know, be a guy who could be passable in the outfield right here. But you know what? This guy's going to hit nonetheless, no matter where he is at. Ted Williams in 1941, like we mentioned, he hit .406 with a .553 average, 735 slugging. Well, .553 on base, 735 slugging, 37 homers, 120 RBI, a 235 OPS plus. Finished second in AL MVP. He was a 1941 All-Star. He, like I mentioned, last time any MLB player has hit over 400 in a year. And his 1287 on-base plus slugging percentage is the highest mark in MLB between 1924 and 2000. That is a marker of excellence right there. And this is an excellent card right here for Ted Williams, 1941 Boston Red Sox. He is the topper for Rebirth Era Set 1 and 2. All right, one more card to go. And it's from the Dead Ball Era. Time to show off the topper for the Dead Ball Era set 1 and 2. And ladies and gentlemen, we go to Cleveland. We go to Cleveland for our next guy right here. And you know, there have been some pretty good players that have been on Cleveland teams during the Dead Ball Era. But you know, this guy, you know, pretty darn good. I mean, all these guys we've had today are pretty darn good. All right. But you know what? This guy shares a name with a guy this guy shares a name with something I'm probably going to do after the stream today. And that is, I'm probably going to be taking a pretty darn good nap. Ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to be napping on this card right here. From the 1906 Cleveland team, it is 100 overall second baseman, Nap Lajway. 120 BABIP, 26 power, 115 avoid K, 134 contact, 123 gap, and 55 on the eye. Whoo! Big contact guy right here. Oh, baby. And this guy, you know, not a lot of splits on this guy either. 121 BABIP against lefties, 28 power, 117 avoid K, 136 contact, 125 gap, 56 on the eye. And against righties, he's got 120 BABIP, 25 power, 114 avoid K, 133 contact, 122 cap power, and 54 on the eye. And you know, take a look at that defense over there. That is pretty solid for second base right here. 98 range, 83 error, 78 arm, and 102 on the turn double play. He can play second base. He can play shortstop. He can play first base. He can play third. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. He can play all 4 infield positions for y'all. That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun. 61 speed, 67 stealing, 72 base running as well. Whew. Some versatility on this guy. Very good versatility, you know, in terms of tournaments as well. In case, you know, you might come across him maybe in a perfect draft potentially. You can play him practically anywhere as well. Oh, man. This guy, big contact guy. And he was a big contact guy in 1906. 355, 392, 465, 91 RBI, 214 hits during the regular season with 48 doubles. Which that's an insane number for the 1900s. He led MLB in hits and doubles in 1906. He was second in the AL in average on base and slugging percentage during the 1906 season. And this is tied for the second most doubles in a season in the 1900s decade. Between 1900 and 1909, tied for the second most doubles in a season. Now, this was a very complete season for Nap Lajoie. 10 wins above replacement, even. And even 10. 7.6 offensive WAR, 2.6 defensive wins above replacement, highest in his career. Awesome, awesome stuff right here for Nap Lajoie. Honestly, I'm feeling like this could be a second baseman that we might see on some pretty good teams, I would imagine. So there you go. Nap Lajoie from 1906 Cleveland is in Perfect Team 24 as your dead ball era set 1 and 2 topper for Immortal Seasons. So folks, there you have it. There's your 14 cards for Immortal Seasons 2. You have the toppers, Aparicio, Lajoie, you have Williams, you have Steve Carlton, you got Gary Carter, you got Tony Gwynn, you got Troy Tulowitzki. And then you have the packables. You got Andrew Miller, you got Tom Glavine, Don Mattingly, Brooks Robinson, Jim Constanti, Satchel Paige, and Billy Hamilton. There will be missions coming out today as well. Oh, man. This is going to be a fun day, y'all. This is going to be a fun day for y'all. Plus, you know, with a perfect point sale and a game sale, this is going to be a fun day, y'all. This is going to be a fun day, y'all. All right, before we sign off for the day, let's go ahead and congratulate our weekly leaderboard champs from the final week of the PTCS 5 period, week number 22. You have, from the Daily Iron, Mandy T and the Madison Moundsman taking home first place last week with 111 points. Daily Bronze last week was won by MJ Tebow and the Madison Mohicans with 87 points. Daily Silver, Jim Bowden won in the Strong Baddie Attires, winning it with 142 points. Daily Gold, Beham Bells and the Bellingham Bells in first place on the leaderboard last week with 116 points. In Daily Diamond, it's a 2-week streak for Ma Whiffen and the Tavistock-based Ballersons at the top of the list with 142 points. Daily Open, Galoy and the Nagoya Grampus finishing in first place last week with 144 points. In the Daily Wildcard, it's Thinking Dog and the Taito Albas in first place last week with 103 points. In the weekly tournaments, it's Issa Duffo in the Florence Baycats with 121 points on a 2-week streak in those tournaments. In the perfect draft realm in the dailies, it was Bahut in the California Halos with 129 points last week, taking home the #1 spot. And in the weeklies, it was D. Kudla and the Pronouncers of Nonsense in first place with 96 points. So folks, thank you so much for tuning in to Immortal Seasons Set 2. Fun times today, some really great cards coming out. Maybe you can get maybe 1 or 2 of them, potentially. We'll see what happens here today. Guys, I will see you back here on Saturday for the Perfect Team Championship Series Finals. Gonna be a fun time to see who might get some of those final spots in the Perfect Team Master Series. Should be a fun time. And then we'll be back on Sunday after that for the Perfect League World Series. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. I've been Rob Tomlinson, DishNet34, signing out. Have a great day, everybody.